Hi guys, I'm Angie and I'm doing day one of my blog about baking, and the subject tonight is cookies. And that is one thing I love to do. If I could quit my job tomorrow, let me tell you I would. Oh my god. Anyhow, obviously that's not an option. So I'm going to show you a couple ways to make some good cookies. One of my most requested recipes is the potato chip cookies, which was passed down from my grandma Floss. She would make these when we were growing up, and she would throw them in the freezer, and then she would find our asses getting in there about 1 o'clock in the morning saying, better get out of my kitchen or I'm going to kill you. So I'm going to let you know some good tips and how to make this recipe, okay? I like to start off by always preheating my oven to 350. It's a real good temperature for baking cookies. I like to take about 2 to 3 cookie sheets, line those with parchment paper and spray them. There's nothing worse than not spraying your cookie sheet and then they stick and you get broken up cookies. So who wants that? So once you've sprayed them, you know, I also like to use an ice cream scoop for my cookies. This will allow your cookie dough to not only be uniform size but spread evenly and bake evenly, which is super, super important. I will start out with a bowl for my dry ingredients and a bowl for my wet ingredients. And I always use butter. Y'all, nobody wants to have margarine 1 grade below plastic in their cookies. That's nasty shit, man. Okay? So use butter. I use 2 sticks, salted butter, and I use that at room temperature so it's easy, you know, it's easier to stir and all that. I know a lot of you have the KitchenAid mixers that are like $5,000 at your house, but you know the best ingredients is your hand. Just get right in there, you know. And so start out with 2 sticks of butter, add 1 cup of brown sugar, 1 cup of white sugar, and cream that together. I add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. My favorite is the Madagascar vanilla, but I would not expect anybody to go out to any specialty store or spend, you know, $8–10 on vanilla. Using pure vanilla extract is just fine. It's not going to make that much of a difference on your cookies. So get that all mixed together. Add 1 egg at a time. I usually use 2 eggs per recipe. And then once that is all incorporated, I start adding my dry ingredient. One ingredient that I started using on my cookies a few years back is malted milk powder. And I realized that a lot of people, you know, don't usually bake with that. They add that to their malts or their shakes. But I noticed that when you add that to your cookie dough, it literally malts the dough. It makes tiny little bubbles. It changes the texture, and it makes a really rich product. So it's really, really good. So I add about a half a cup to my cookie dough. And once that's all mixed up, I start adding my flour. I do that 1 cup at a time, and I do 3 total cups so that you don't have like this big white mess. So when that's all mixed up, I add a teaspoon of my baking soda and make sure that's all incorporated. You don't want to take a bite out of a cookie that has just nothing but baking soda in it. That's just nasty. An important ingredient in your cookies is salt. That will bring out any flavor that's in your cookie, which in this case is sugar. In this recipe, I have to take out the salt because there's potato chips added, and you don't want it to be too salty. So I either pick 2 cups of plain Lay's or 2 cups of plain Ruffles, and I crush them up really good. And when that cookie dough is mixed up, I like to fold those in, and I fold a bag of the butterscotch chips into that too. Once that's all mixed up, I take a scoop and I scoop 12 cookies per cookie sheet, and I can do 2 cookie sheets per batch, and they take about 13 minutes. I get my cooling racks ready so that when you take them out, they can cool down in between the time that you're baking your cookies off. You're gonna get about 4 dozen cookies out of this recipe. I love making these because cookies will spread to make a lot. You know, when you can make that for 4 dozen people. You can double your recipe and make that twice as much, so that's always nice. Or you can freeze them like my grandma did, and you can yell at everybody else and be like, get out of my damn kitchen. So if you have any questions for me on how to bake cookies, any other recipes that you're interested in, you can visit me on Facebook. I do publish cookbooks, so you can. I've made 3, and I'm getting ready to make my 4th one in March, so I'm super, super excited about that. You can visit Angie's Nostalgic Cookbooks on Facebook, and or you can email me at angieburget@hotmail.com. Thank you.